How are you?
How are you, Tom? Thank you for having me.
It's a
Great
pleasure to
to meet
have you.
you.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you as well.
What do you remember from your first night at Studio 54?
Well, I was there opening night and I was there closing night, and I was there. I was meant to be there. It was an extraordinary ride for 3 years. It opened with a bang and it closed with a bang. It opened in a very wonderful way. It was the melting pot of all of New York. Everyone was there. Your former prime minister's wife was a frequent regular dancer there.
Margaret Trudeau.
Floor, Margaret Trudeau, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Cher, Diana Ross. I used to love dancing with Diana Ross. All the New York socialites, Diana Furstenberg and I went there in the summer about 3 times a week. And it was just great. Halston, Bianca Jagger was sort of like the official hostess because she was there almost every night in an extraordinary outfit. At that time, she was wearing a lot of Halston. And, she rode it on a white horse for one of her birthday parties at 54. So 54 was a place where you could see everything from the most extraordinary celebrity, Truman Capote writer, Norman Mailer. You could also see maybe Dr. Henry Kissinger, but you might not see him. He might be there for 15 minutes.
Kissinger?
Dr. Henry Kissinger.
Really?
I think I remember vaguely Dr. Kissinger being there.
Wow.
Maybe not, but I have in my mind Dr. Kissinger went.
Yeah.
He was curious enough to go by there.
Yeah.
Not sure that might be checked out. But I am sure that it was a great place. It began with a bang, and it was just crescendoed into like this decadence of deep, deep decadence. Allegedly, people were doing all kinds of things in the basement and the balcony. I do remember one night just running around up in the balcony, the last rafters. People were so high on couples, were so high on something that they were having sex. And I mean full on frontal sex.
On the balcony?
In the balcony. It was an original studio for a television studio. So of course they have seats in the balcony, up to the rafters of the ceiling. And you go up those steps and you can see people having sex and you just stand there and look at them. They were so stoned and glazed, you just wondered why were they there? They weren't aware. They were obviously high on some substance. And I saw this with my own eyes.
Oh my God. So tell me about the fashion at Studio 54.
The fashion was very eclectic and very liberal. It was dance fashion. It was a lot of clinging, soft, silky jerseys. It was the era of the 70s when people were very much free and ankle strap shoes for girls, black stockings. The waiters wore gym shorts, athletic shorts, and sneakers. They were running around serving drinks so fast. They wore shorts because they wanted to be free and comfortable. But, all the fashion was the latest. Saint Laurent, Diane von Furstenberg, Halston, Calvin Klein. Everything that was on the fashion map was at 54, including drag queens. And one of the great things about it is that you can see next to you dancing a drag queen, next to a great, great man, such as the late Sir John Richardson, who was Picasso's expert, biographer. He died about 2 years ago. He died at about 94, 95, 96. He was a great man, and he loved 54. He was clearly gay, but he was a very wonderful bon vivant and a dandy. He was English. And you would see him then, he might be dancing next to a drag queen or a leather man. Some leather man from some sex dungeon in the lower meat market east side. So you had all walks of life. Everyone was at 54.
What did you wear? What did you wear to 54?
On those days, I was wearing suits, custom-made suits. I was wearing bespoke suits from England, from Paris, Dior. My suits were being made at Dior, cashmere and silk. And I was skinny as a bean, as a string bean, so I was wearing suits. I was not wearing anything. I never went to 54. I never wore a costume, for they had theme parties. I never wore one costume. I was in strict custom-made suits. If you see pictures of me and Diana Ross, I'm in black tie. It's by Dior. Menswear. And funnily enough, 54 came just before AIDS. It was a bit like Sodom and Gomorrah at the end because it had spiraled off the rails. Steve Rubell was a great entrepreneur, but it was revealed he had to go to jail because he was putting cash from the cash registers in paper bags at night, taking them out or hiding them in the walls of his office. So somehow or another, someone tipped off the feds. He went to jail. And at the same time, AIDS was about to come on into the society, first in New York, and no one knew what it was. But until that time, it was just like Sodom and Gomorrah, Babylon. It was like a Babylon Nights. The music carried the whole thing. The music, without the music and Steve Rubell's vision and Ian's vision, it would have been a boring little club.
Yeah.
But the music carried the whole thing. Elevated.
Speaking of the music, can you tell me the story? It's a great story. Can you tell me the story when you danced with Diana Ross at 54?
Well, Diana Ross, you just danced. It was New Year's Eve. I guess the ball had come down or gone up in the ceiling, and we just danced. And I just dipped her on the floor. And it was just like, and I knew Diana Ross. I had worked with her working with her for the magazine interview. And so you knew Diana Ross, and we just danced. And you just danced with anyone and everyone. You could just dance by yourself, or you could dance with Diana Ross. And so fortunately, that picture is there for longevity, for eternity. I was dancing with Diana Ross.
Do you remember what she was wearing that night?
Saint Laurent, Yves Saint Laurent Couture, Yves Saint Laurent from the Opera collection.
Man,
it was New Year's Eve, 77.
Can you explain something to me? So you were working at the Women's Wear Daily magazine, fashion accessories editor, and you just told me you were going to 54 3-4 times a week, getting up and going to work. How did you pull that off?
I was young. And I was skinny. And the office of my apartment was on 14th Street, and Women's Wear Daily's headquarters was on 12th Street. So when I came in at 5 a.m, I took a nap, got up, took a shower, and shaved, got dressed. I was fresh, and I walked 2 blocks to work. I didn't have to take a taxi or transportation. So I could roll in at 8:45 with a cup of coffee and fake it.
Do you think that the legend of Studio 54 is as such because it was only around for 3 years?
I kind of think it couldn't have gone on forever. It was just great. It was something you'd never seen or never the energy. It was authentic. It was something about the place that was very authentic. And they had these extraordinary theme parties. And there was a girl called Carmen D'Alessio, a Brazilian, and she used to give these theme parties. And the designers would have everyone wanted to have a party there. And when you got the invitation to the party, you just went to the party, and it was just the greatest thing. Now, I'm not saying the Studio 54 had great food because there was no restaurant. It served great hors d'oeuvres. It was the music and the mix of people. It was the fashion and the mix of people. I really think that was the success of it. And the red velvet rope, I never had to stand behind the red velvet rope because if you were a New Yorker and if you were working for Women's Wear Daily or Andy Warhol, you just passed the velvet rope and went straight through Steve. So I never had to stand behind the velvet rope. I never had to be made to feel insecure enough about getting in 54. I was a VIP.
I'd say you were.
To be.
I'll ask you a hard one. Can you tell me your best night at 54?
I think the first night was the best night, and the last night was not a good night. The first night, I didn't stay there long for the last night, but because I'd been up to Dionne's house for a party she'd given for Steve and Ian, and they were about to go off to jail. So that was a very sad thing. She'll talk about that, I think, next week. That's why we asked Dionne to come into the conversation. But Ian and Steve were wonderful guys. They were very great entrepreneurs. And I think that the best night was, any night was the best night. The great nights were when you just came from dinner and you just walked in at 11:30 or 12:15 and the music was blaring and the dance floor was full and you just jumped into the energy and the feeling of the music. The music, and by the way, the music in those days, disco was extraordinary. The Philadelphia sound, all of that, Donna Summer, it was just going, and the DJs were wonderful, and you just fell into the energy of the time. And as I said, I was young then.
If you're just tuning in, my guest is André Leon Talley, fashion icon and former Vogue editor. Last time we spoke, we talked about the importance of dressing as a moral code. I have to say, I did change after that. Not just.
Well, you still got your beard.
I still got, but I'm wearing I bought a crew neck.
Okay, well, good for you.
I bought my first crew neck. I'm like a hoodie, t-shirt, jean jacket guy. I don't know. I listen, I was talking to Corey, the producer of this. I knew I was talking to you. I was like, I'm going to wear my best crew neck for you today.
I'm glad. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I bought a flower blazer.
Wow, that's big.
So you know what?
Big.
I'm not doing too bad. Listen, but the quarantine, I am the only, the quarantine has not been great for dressing up.
No way.
What have you been wearing quarantine-wise?
I wear dress up in my house as I'm going out the doors. You see, I'm wearing my gold lame kaftan from Dapper Dan, collaborating with Gucci. My hat from London, England, my fabulous fedora. My gloves from Hermes. I dress up as if I'm going out. When I get off this Zoom, I will take off the gloves and go to the bed, have a nap, and look at TV. But I dress up in the morning. I just get up and I think it's like a normal day. And you just have to approach it.
Why?
To stimulate yourself. You got to have something to go. You have to get up and read. You have to get up and do Zoom talks. You have to make a life for yourself. You have to pattern out your life in a day so as you won't fall apart. And we don't have 54. I don't have any 54s to go to. I don't have any 54s to go to. I haven't been out in a year, and it's a challenge. I wish there was a 54.
I want to go back to something you said earlier. Should I get rid of the beard? Are you saying the beard got to go?
I would say you might have a bit more success with the ladies with maybe a modified beard. It's a bit too much hair on your face.
It's a bit bushy. I must
say it's a bit, I'll see, down there under. No.
It's a little, maybe a trim, maybe a little 5 o'clock shadow kind of thing.
A little grooming and combing and a little reducing might be much more success.
They say that the pandemic might be the end of formal wear after this. How do you feel about that?
No such thing. No way. No. There's always going to be formal wear. There's always going to be a place to dress up to go to. Somewhere you're going to find a way to wear your clothes. I haven't thrown anything out. I've kept all the clothes I've ever had since I was 26 years old. My closets are crammed with young, old, middle class, middle age, all this. I'm now 72 going to 73, and I am not throwing anything out. I don't give anything away. My shoes are a bit tight, so now my feet have gotten wider as you get old. And it's going to come to you one day, if you live to be 72, your feet expand. Your feet don't detract. My feet are like platypus feet. They're like the feet of some bear. They used to be like a ballerina's feet. Now they're like some bear paw.
And don't you wear Uggs?
Yes, I wear Uggs. I'm the Ugg camp, of course. And that's why I wear Uggs, because they're comfortable. And you just slip into them like one slip and it's on. You don't have to lace them up. You just put your big bear paw in the Ugg and it's like you're wearing a hot slip all day long. I love Uggs. I
got to tell you, I didn't think Uggs, I thought Uggs were like the bottom rung of fashion until I saw you wear Uggs.
The bottom rung of fashion until I discovered it. And I said, let me see, gonna buy Uggs. When they started making for me, and I went and bought a pair and I never looked back. I never looked back. Never. I've got wardrobes of fabulous shoes. Tom Ford, Manolo Blahnik, Berluti, Lob, Hermes of London, Mr. Cleverly, blah, blah, blah. But downstairs are rows and rows of Uggs of all sizes, colors and styles, moccasins, boots, slip-ons, everything you can name it. Ugg. So when they called me and asked me to do the campaign, they got to the right person because you know how much I love the Ugg when I order them every season for the winter season, you know?
Yeah.
And it's been a great campaign for me. And during this pandemic, it's been a great success. And they were great for me, and I love doing it.
Maybe if I keep maybe if I get some Uggs, I can keep the beard.
No, the beard has got to be groomed, sir, Tom.
I lost my trimmers. I lost my clippers. I'm traveling. I lost my clippers.
Okay, but order some more. Just get on Google, Amazon.com, and send them to you the next day.
Did you watch the inauguration?
I loved it.
What did you think? What did you think of it fashion-wise?
It was perfection. It was perfection. The Biden women, the young girls, and First Lady Biden, and all those young girls of the Biden family with those bright coats and boots and pink, and the family, the unit of the family, and also Vice President Kamala Harris's family of stepdaughters. One girl had on a Miu Miu coat. She studies fashion at Parsons here in New York. She's now signed up with a modeling agency because she wore that fabulous Miu Miu coat at the inaugural. I mean, they had on Dior, the guys had on Dior sneakers and stuff at the inaugural. They were cool. And this was authentic. This was not unlike the previous administration where they all look like they come out of bandboxes. They all look like they just got a Federal Express package open and $10,000 worth of clothing in it. They put it on their backs. They did not look authentic. The Bidens are authentic. Dr. Biden looked authentic in that beautiful coat and dress and blue shoes. And what I love, by the way, is if you notice, if you were careful and you observe fashion the way I have been trained to observe fashion, Dr. Biden changed shoes several times a day. She changed from her beige nude stilettos to her new blue stilettos. Maybe the blue ones are a bit high for her. When she had to walk, she put on the beige ones. And then she was sitting there in blue. So she had that extra pair of shoes for comfort. And that's what I think is great about them. And Dr. Biden and President Biden looks great. He's fit. He runs. He's got fabulous shoes. He's got those skinny leg suits. He's up to date.
What did you think of Bernie's mittens?
I never saw them. But then there was a big thing about him next day. I never saw them. I don't know what it was all about. I didn't see Bernie on my television, so it didn't matter. I was focused on the Bidens and the Harris. I also think all the first ladies looked good at that inaugural. Let me just give a shout out to First Lady Laura Bush, always elegant. Michelle Obama, always fantastically well-dressed. And First Lady Hillary Clinton, who decided not to try to stand out, but she just put on a fabulous purple scarf, and she had longer hair and a top coat. These were the people that mattered in America.
I want to talk to you about the inauguration and not in the lens of fashion, because it reminded me of a line from your memoir. You wrote, "The struggle for Black equality is a constant challenge. It takes daily individual skirmishes to survive by hope and faith, to conquer all the inbred race problems through the power of love." You were writing about the Obamas there, but what was it like to see Kamala, the first Black and South Asian female vice president of the United States?
Tom, it was like the Red Sea had parted. It was fluid, it was organic, and it was sincere. She's great. She looked great. And the power of Kamala Harris is that she's proud of who she is and who she has become and all of her achievements. And it is fitting that she is the vice president, the first Black and Asian, Southern Asian woman as vice president. This is historically significant because it will give inspiration to all young girls of any race, any background, to aspire to become a vice president one day or a president. And for the first time, we have a female in that position. So the whole day was just a day of aspiration and hope, positive hope. The energy was pure. The light was pure. The sky was wonderful. It was not a cold, brisk day. It was a fresh day. It was a day of fresh air. As I say, the fresh air came back, and it was not from a can of aerosol spray called Febreze. With the other administration, it was all Febreze. It was all in an aerosol can.
This was the open window.
Artificial. These are the fresh people, and the man has been working for 2 weeks. He's never out of that Oval Office. He's working.
I do want to talk about Kamala. I mean, you're former editor-at-large of Vogue. What did you think about Kamala's, or I should say Vice President Harris's Vogue cover? A bit of a controversy. I'll fill people in. People said her look was too casual. She was wearing a fairly simple suit, a pair of Converse sneakers. What did you think of it?
I thought it was a great cover. I thought it was the right cover. I thought it was the appropriate cover because that cover signaled the times we live in. We live in a pandemic where fashion is not the most important part of your conversation, but it is vital to who you are to express yourself through your clothes. Kamala Harris wore those sneakers and that black jacket and black jeans on the campaign trail. I saw her many times on TV in several cities. She'd run on stage with those Converse sneakers. She styled her own wardrobe for the photo shoot, and she worked with Tyler Mitchell, the young Black photographer, the first man ever to do Vogue covers. He did the Beyonce cover 3 years ago. And so obviously she had a relationship with Tyler, and she wanted to be photographed that way, in that backdrop of pink and green to represent the colors of her Black sorority, AKA. And that's very important to her. And so for me, that cover represented Tyler, who is of another generation. He does not see style through the prism of the way you would see style through the eyes of Annie Leibovitz or the late Richard Avedon, the great photographer, or the late Irving Penn, a great Vogue photographer. Tyler Mitchell is from the generation of now, 21, maybe he's 27 or something. He sees it differently, and I think the cover worked, and I think it was great. And I think that they probably have had a big success with that cover.
It was quite a controversy, hey?
What controversy? People knitting controversies because they have nothing else to do. You know, they sit at home and they knit controversies up on the internet because they've got nothing else to do. They don't know how to occupy their space. Go read a book.
Do you think, maybe this is a good way to end it, do you think coming out of this pandemic, and you kind of hinted at it earlier, we're going to see this is what keeps me optimistic. Like, we're going to see this explosion of creativity, of people going out of a new 54, you know what I mean? Like the Roaring '20s, right?
Maybe, but I see semblances of that now. Already, I mean, with Netflix, with Bridgerton, you know what about that? The Bridgerton?
Yeah.
That's an amazing development. Shonda Rhimes Productions blew the glass ceiling, exploded it, shattered it when she recreated the British romantic epic series. And I think that's great. I think that's a fabulous development. It's highly creative. And you know, for so many reasons why it's creative. Because there's so many Black people who are playing the aristocrats. They're not just playing servants. And I think that there will be moments of creativity. I don't know. I think there will be. We'll see. You know, with upcoming the Oscars and the Super Bowl, we have all these events in America where the cultural landscape changes with the performances of people. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's happening at the Super Bowl. I'm looking forward to the Golden Globes and the Oscars award ceremonies. We will come out of this, I hope, with something good, because we're on the right track with the right president and the first lady and the vice president. We are on the right rail. We're on the right train.
Before we go, we're going to play a song after this interview. Is there a particular song that reminds you of your days at 54?
Oh, yeah. Love, Hangover by Diana Ross.
Why that one?
That's my favorite song with the era of 54. I used to listen to that on the weekends over and over and over again. Love, Hangover.
We'll play it. Lovely to talk to you.
It's Tom. It's great to see you. Get that beard groomed.
I will. I'm going to do that tonight.